Welcome to Ask Jerry and Rebecca, part of Cold Wax Academy, a free video series where we answer your questions about cold wax medium. Hi, welcome to this episode of Ask Jerry and Rebecca, now part of Cold Wax Academy. Today's question is such a common one. We've had many requests on Ask Jerry and Rebecca, and I hear it every time I teach a workshop. It's a question about layering, and today the question comes from Ann Bearhart, Suzanne Newbold, Mary Wallace, Terry Shiguri, Carol McConnell, and January Garabedian. It's a two-part question about layering, and the first part is how many layers are there in a cold wax painting? And the second part is how long do you wait between those layers when you're painting? So the first part of that question about how many layers are in a cold wax painting, well, the answer to that is as many as you need. My large, highly textured monochromatic paintings, my 4x5s and 5x5s, some of those paintings have upwards of 60 layers. But when I paint small, spontaneous works on paper, there can easily be parts of that painting where there might only be 1 or 2 layers of cold wax and oils over the paper. Sometimes there are areas where all you see is a very transparent layer of color and the paper shows right through it. And then, on another section, there might be 5 or 6 layers adjacent to it. So there are no rules about how many layers there are or should be in a cold wax painting. Rebecca and I paint in a certain way that gives us the outcome and effects that we want, and we would encourage you to do the same. So anywhere from 1 to as many as you need is how many layers are right. And the second part of that question, which is how long do you wait between layers? Well, it really depends, because on one spectrum you have wet layers, layers that you've just put down. And on the other end of the spectrum you have dry layers, ones that have dried and cured long enough that they are actually dry to the touch. And then in between you have this spectrum of semi-dry that Rebecca and I talk about so much in our workshops, our book, and our video. There are no right or wrong layers to paint in, but there are qualities of your layers that are going to make it possible, difficult, easy, or impossible to do what you want to do. And what I mean by that is, if you want to do a very thin, transparent glaze, your painting's almost certainly going to have to be dry or nearly so, because you need to apply a lot of pressure to get that thin glaze. So that's just not going to work on a fairly wet painting. There are techniques when you work wet in wet that create certain textures and certain blending and tonal properties that you can't get even when the paint starts to firm up a little bit. And then there's that range of effects you get in this semi-dry area, that zone between dry and wet, with your brayer and your squeegee that change as you go from wetter to drier. And none of those are right or wrong. They're just unique to the combination of paint, tool, and surface. And Rebecca and I don't go into a high level of detail with that, except to say that the vast majority of what we do occurs in that semi-dry range. And the reason we don't go into a lot of detail is because the combinations are infinite. And really what you need to do is just discover for yourself what level of wetness or dryness of your surface is right to get what you need. So the answer is going to be, in short, how long do I wait? As long as I need to get the effect I want. And we would encourage you to just experiment and then find that degree of wetness to dryness that gives you surfaces colors, values that are right for you. I hope that answers your question, and we'll see you next time.